Hey there, it's Steve from Serious Keto, and in this video we are going to make a keto hummus with 1/3 the net carbs of traditional chickpea hummus. A couple of weeks ago I was approached by a small startup called EVOO Foods. All they do is lupini. Lately it seems that lupin flour, ground lupin beans, or lupini has been kind of a hot topic in the keto world, and for good reason. First off, very, very low net carbs. For example, these lupini flakes, which I'm going to use in this video, in 1/4 cup, you have 11 grams of total carbohydrates. Of that, 10 grams is dietary fiber. So just 1 gram of net carbs per 1/4 cup. Not only is lupini keto friendly, I've actually read an article that says it may help improve type 2 diabetes, so bonus there. The problem is that most of the lupin flour or lupini flour that I've used so far has got sort of a earthy, even bitter sort of an edge to it. Enough so that you need to cut it with some other sort of flour, almond flour, coconut flour, etc. Not so with this stuff from EVOO Foods. I don't know what particular variety of lupini beans these are, where they're sourced, any of that stuff. But what I can tell you is both the flour and the flakes have virtually none of that bitterness that you usually find in lupin or lupini. Now, one very important note before we get going. If you have a peanut allergy, you should not eat lupini beans. They are very close cousins on the food scale. So if you have an issue with peanuts, lupini is not for you. As always, the printable recipe, along with all the macros, will be linked to down in the description below. Now let's make some hummus. We will start with 3 cups of water, that is 710 ml. We'll then add 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. This not only further reduces any slight bitterness that there might be in the lupini, it also makes it easier to blend later on. We'll bring this to a boil and stir in our baking soda. Once we've reached a boil, we'll add our lupini flakes. 1 cup or 120 grams. We'll boil our lupini flakes for 3 to 4 minutes. If it looks like it's going to foam over, you may want to reduce the heat just a little bit. But we're going to want to stir constantly. I'm using a 1.5 quart saucepan here, and I'm kind of pushing my luck. I'm right near the edge. After about 4 minutes, that foam is going to die down. We'll turn off our heat and then strain our lupin through a fine mesh strainer. We'll then let it cool while we prep some of our other ingredients. For this recipe, we will use the juice of 1 lemon. You can use fresh lemon or bottled, but if using fresh, you can also take that zest off of it and use it a little bit later as a garnish. I use my microplane upside down like this so that I can collect all the zest. It's a lot cleaner that way. We'll set the lemon aside for later and scoop our zest down into a bowl. See how tidy that is? And we'll save that for later too. For this recipe, you can use either jarred minced garlic or fresh garlic. We're going to use fresh. We'll crush them a little bit with the side of a knife. That helps the skin come off. And then I cut off the little ends here, the stem ends. Then we'll thinly slice both cloves. And set these aside for later. We will dump our mostly drained lupini flakes into a food processor. Then we will add the juice of our lemon. If using bottled lemon juice, I would say 2 to 3 tablespoons. That's 30 to 45 ml, depending on how citrusy you like your hummus. Next, we will add 1/3 of a cup, or about 80 grams, of tahini. Now, I found that some brands of tahini can be a little bit bitter. I'll talk about how to counter that at the end of this video. Also, any tools that I use, including this variable measuring cup, I will link to down in the description below. Scrape this off right here. Next, we will add 2 tablespoons, or about 30 ml, of extra virgin olive oil. We'll then add our garlic, either 2 cloves or 1 teaspoon minced, 1/4 teaspoon of smoked paprika, and then we're going to add some cumin. You can either use seed or ground. If ground, use 1/4 teaspoon. We're going to use seed, but we're going to grind it up in a mortar and pestle. 1/4 teaspoon, along with 1 teaspoon of kosher salt. Now, if you like cumin, you are going to love the smell of this. It takes about a minute to grind it up, but it really unleashes an incredible, incredible smell and flavor. And we will dump that into our food processor. Get every last bit of it here. And scrape off that stuff off that little center bit. Now we will process this for 30 seconds. And then scrape down the sides. To this we will add 1/4 cup of ice cold water. And we will process again for about another 30 seconds. Once again, scrape down the sides. Then we're going to give this a little bit of a taste. If you find that there's any sort of residual bitterness, either from the tahini or from the lupini, you can counter that with 5 to 10 drops of liquid stevia. I find that this doesn't taste very bitter to me, so I'm just going to put in, 4 or 5 drops. And one final time, we'll process for another 30 seconds. Look at how smooth that is. We will transfer this to a bowl. At this point, the hummus may still seem a little bit soupy. Don't worry about that. It's going to firm right up once we refrigerate this for about a half an hour. And that's where it's going to go right now. After a half hour, you can see how this is firmed up quite a bit. So now we're going to garnish it. There are pretty much infinite possibilities for garnishing, whether you want to do roasted pine nuts, feta cheese. I'm going to start with a little bit of paprika here. Then I'm going to sprinkle on a little bit of ground cumin, some parsley flake for color. Then I've got that lemon zest from before, which will give this a little more color, as well as a citrus brightness. And finally, I'll drizzle it with a little more extra virgin olive oil. Now you can serve this with one of my keto cracker recipes, or celery, which is what I'm going to do. You know, you could probably do pork rinds too if you want, but I'm doing celery. Now I'll tell you, I have made this with both the pre-minced jarred garlic and the fresh garlic. Fresh garlic really brings the garlic. So if you're not so into garlic and you're using fresh, maybe dial back to just 1 clove. And in terms of the spices and herbs and garnishes on this, you can absolutely make this recipe your own. Have some fun with it. I tell you what, why don't we see what my grandson Colton thinks of hummus? Got some hummus for you. Give that a try. What's that face?
Yummy.
I am definitely going to be doing a lot more with these lupini flakes, as well as the lupini flour from EVOO Foods. In terms of the flakes, I think something like granola would be pretty doable, probably even an oatmeal cookie. Who knows, maybe you could cook this up sort of to be like oatmeal. I'm not sure, but I'm going to try. As for the flour, I have used it already to make some chocolate chip cookies and some peanut butter cookies that were just stellar. And all I used was the lupini flour. Now usually with the lupini flour, I find I can only do about 25% of that as lupini or lupin flour. And then it just starts getting that bitter, earthy sort of taste to it. Not so with this. I used 100% lupini the cookies were great. So in the weeks ahead, look for more recipes with me using this lupini flour and lupini flakes. I will include a link down below in the description so you can buy it on Amazon, along with a 20% off discount code that you can use at the Amazon checkout. If you enjoyed this video, please click that like button. If you're not a subscriber already, tap that subscribe button, then hit the bell and turn on all notifications. And last of all, if you'd like to help support the Serious Keto Test Kitchen, click that join button and see what memberships and perks are all about. Thanks for watching.